Right. Welcome to those of you who've just arrived or arrived during the last few minutes. I'm sorry if you missed the introduction, but I'm Marie Belston. I run Mingle Music, and we've just been speaking about gigging and touring, if you've just arrived, and now we're going to move on to have a little discussion about festivals. So I'd like to introduce the panel first of all. To my left here, we've got Adam Isaac, who you've just seen on the former panel. Adam's a musician who's been gigging for many years. He's also done a lot of coaching. He's a songwriter. He did very well on a very popular television programme called The Voice. He was actually coached by Tom Jones on that, so you may have seen him on that. And he's been touring and building a very successful career in music. To his left, we've got Hannah Hibbert, who is a festival programmer for Llama Tree Festival, which I'm sure you've all heard of. I'm just trying to find a little... Actually, I might let you introduce yourselves, actually, because I sort of lost my notes. So, Hannah, could you tell us a little bit about what you do at Llama Tree?
Yes, I'm part of the core team behind Llama Tree Festival, which is a small festival with a 4,000 capacity over 5 days in July. We're down on the Dorset-Wiltshire border, and we look to kind of programme a range of acts from kind of headliners to up-and-coming and local bands to our area as well. So that's me.
Thanks, Hannah. To Hannah's left, we've got Adrian Bull, who is head programmer this year for Exeter Respect Festival. So, would you like to say anything, Adrian?
Yeah, as most of you probably are aware of the Exeter Respect Festival, it's shifted to having very much a local kind of focus. So, in many ways, it's probably an ideal kind of festival for kind of local bands to try and get on. It's about celebrating the diversity of the area that we live in, so hopefully we're achieving it.
Thanks, Adrian. And then to his left, we've got Ellie Spencer.
Hi, I'm a current gigging musician with my band, The Iskatels. I work as an event manager, and my current role is the music programme at Tiverton Balloon Festival. It's a big hot air balloon festival in Tiverton that you might have heard of. My main aim is to support and promote musicians in the South West.
Thank you. And moving on to Captain Barrett.
Hi, yeah, I programme a festival called Boomtown Fair. It's a 38,000 capacity festival in Winchester. I'm also a DJ, so I've been playing at festivals for about 12 years. So.
Thanks, Captain. And Matt Fremantle.
Hi, my name's Matt. I'm one of the organisers of Lemon Fest in Newton Abbot. It's our 5th year this year, and I do the vast majority of oversee the vast majority of the booking across the festival, across all our stages.
And John Empson, who's involved in a new festival for the South West this year. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that, John.
Yeah, I've been promoting the Eden Sessions in Cornwall for 13 years, and I've just started a new festival called Somersault Festival in North Devon, and I also run a management company.
Excellent. Thank you to the panel. I think we're really lucky to have so many representatives from many of the key South West festivals on board here. So they're all involved in programming at festivals, so a few questions we'd like to put to them, I'm sure, to get a real insight into how programmers go about selecting artists to play, first of all, at festivals. So let's kick off with that question. It'd be really great to hear from each of you how you go about selecting bands and singer-songwriters, DJs, to perform at your particular festival, because I suspect that some of them you will be similar, but there will be some differences, especially in the middle there with Adrian and Ellie. So anyone like to chip in, first of all? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go in. I mean, a lot of it's the same as gigging. You know, you've got to have a good package, etc. But for Boomtown, it's quite specific, the different stages. I program about, I think it's 15 stages. And they're all quite specific in what they play. So one of them's mostly gypsy, one of them's mostly swing and electro swing. There's a ska stage, a more punk stage, etc., etc. So because of that, I've obviously got a limited amount of acts I can actually choose from. So first of all, I'll go for the best, generally. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of keep an eye on who's doing what, you know. I've always got my eye on what's going on, as I'm sure everyone has, you know. We're constantly looking out for new talent, but also keeping an eye on the talent that's already
So
known.
can I just ask you how you do that? I mean, do you listen to everything that's sent to you, or do you have sort of scouts on the ground that are kind of actively going out and finding new talent?
I don't have any kind of scouts in terms of I specifically choose people, but I've got hundreds of friends that are into music, and I'm always listening to people whose opinion is valid for me.
Right, yeah, so a lot of it's recommendation.
And just, I mean, funny enough, social media is quite a good one, Facebook, etc. Because if you're friends with bands, etc., they'll post up stuff that they like, and so a lot of the time, you know, it just comes to you. But I go to a lot of gigs. I go to a gig, you know, most nights, at least one. So yeah, just generally keeping an eye out.
Thanks. Okay, any other thoughts on that question?
I think I'd second that. Is, you know, all of us on this panel probably are, you know, music lovers primarily, and we are immersed in music, and everything we do is based around live music and recording music. So it's no great chore to go out to gigs all the time and talk about it all the time. And, you know, I think, you know, the specific bands are relevant to specific festivals, and, you know, I think that the worst thing is when people send you stuff that's so irrelevant to your event, you know, and like this gentleman says, it's very specific, you know, for some of his stages in terms of genres of music, and it's the same with all of us, I guess. It's more than just being great. You've got to be in the right place at the right time, and, you know, you've got to somehow raise your head above the parapet, you know, and I think a lot of that comes through instinct and experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's a case of, as well, finding out who the individual programmers are for those specific stages where your music will sit perfectly.
It's kind of not a pet hate, but, you know, I listen to a lot of the music I get sent, but obviously we're one of the festivals that don't put on indie rock bands or indie pop bands. And I probably get more than any other genre. So, and every time it's like, we think we will be amazing for your festival, but, you know, they obviously haven't done the research. Yeah. You can tell that. So those ones I generally don't listen to.
Yeah.
I think the copy and paste submissions are the sort of the worst as well, to be honest. That's you know, the worst thing you can do. If you see something that's clearly gone out to about 1 million different email addresses and is invariably completely irrelevant for what you're trying to do, it puts you off. It does. I mean, it's difficult sometimes, I know, but that's definitely one of the ways not to do it.
So Matt, you run a Lemon Fest, which is a Devon-based festival just near Newton Abbot. How many applications might you get any particular year for your festival?
It's gone up year on year, to be honest, and this year we've had, it must be close to 500. And bearing in mind we're only a one-day festival, that's, you know, every single slot has to work really, really hard for us because, you know, we're not a 2 or 3 day festival. We can't spread the acts out across that amount of days. We've got maybe 8 or 9 slots on the main stage tops, and then the same on the local stage as well, and then you've got the dance tent and the acoustic tent. So we've got to be, you know, we get a hell of a lot of submissions, and I've noticed, I think, as the festival's sort of grown, obviously we're getting more and more submissions now, so we're even more selective than we've ever been, and it's notable, you know. Yeah,
and do you normally listen to everything you're sent, or do you?
We try
a bit.
Well, no, genuinely we try, and I'll try and listen to as much of it as I possibly can. But the good thing about our festival is as well, like Captain was saying before, I sort of value other people's opinions as well. It's not necessarily about what I'm into or what I like listening to. We've got a good group of people that will listen to a lot of the music that we're sent, or will recommend bands, or will be out gigging. You know, it's not just me going to a gig, it's our whole team of sort of promoters almost going out to gigs and listening to people. So I really, really, you know, take note of their recommendations a lot of the time.
I think
Okay,
that's really
yeah.
important because to try and not be biased to anything that might not necessarily be to your taste. Because if you're booking an event, or even if it's just a one-day festival, you know, you're booking it for however many people, the likelihood is not everyone's going to like the same thing. So making sure you're thinking what's appropriate for your audience and, you know, what people are going to enjoy, and obviously, you know, with the levels of their talent, rather than what you just want to listen to yourself. I think that's very important.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you set any criteria when you're programming Tiverton Balloon Festival?
Well, Tiverton Balloon Festival is very much about community. It's a real family event, so obviously I have to be careful again with what I choose. It has to be appropriate for the audience. Main thing for me is obviously I want to have a lot of diversity and as many different genres and styles as possible. I mainly try and prioritise slots to people from the southwest and the surrounding areas, just supporting local musicians in the southwest. So it's not particularly strict in terms of genre. Something different, anything a little bit different always makes me really interested, something that's a bit new that might not have been heard before, someone that's trying something different.
Yeah.
But I'm quite open to all styles. Yeah.
Thanks. Adrian, moving over to you. Actually, Adrian heads up the Respect sort of committee for programming this year, and I should probably mention that Ellie and I are also on that team, so I know a bit about how Exeter Respect has set their criteria for selecting musicians to play at the festival this year. Perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about how that model is different, perhaps from most of the other festivals here.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that is obviously different from probably all of you is that we don't have to sell tickets because it's a community event and it's free. So we're not in a position of having to try and think, right, which bands do we need to sell tickets and pull in an audience? So we don't have to do that. Despite that, because of the work done previously over the years by the people that have been running Respect, we've had loads and loads of stuff through bands that I've seen and know really well, but are way out of our price range and don't fit with what we're trying to do. So what we did, when I got asked to do the programming, I thought it wasn't right for one person to do it. It's a bit like what you're saying, you know, because I have music that I like and, you know, we all have our individual taste. I'd like to think I can kind of see a band that even aren't playing music that I like but recognise that they're good at it if they are. But even then, you know, so I thought the best thing to do was to put a team of people together, which is what we've done. So it's been as democratic as we could make it. But we set a criteria at the beginning, which was one, that we didn't want to have a load of acts that played last year and there have been acts who've played year on year, which means it's a closed door to anyone else who hasn't done it before. We also we have to try and reflect the diversity because that is what Respect is about. That's a real challenge as we still live in a predominantly kind of white British area. So that's been a bit of a challenge, but I think we've done okay. The other part that we set was that we wanted to get more young people involved in the event. So we've opened the doors to young bands, and probably against my personal better judgment, we agreed to run a Battle of the Bands contest for young bands because we were trying to put in a local youth band stage and we were unable to fit it in on the site. So we opened the doors to that, and that got inundated. We had something like 300 bands apply
Just for that, yeah.
And it's like 4 slots across 2 days. But we've basically had loads of emails, bands have contacted us direct. We've used our kind of collective knowledge of people we know or people we know of, and have just put out, so this is what we're doing. We don't have any money. We are going to pay everybody a certain amount of expenses, which is going to be equal across the board, which is probably unique as well. So there isn't going to be a headlining band going away with $1,000 in their pocket and everyone else doing it for nothing. But I think a festival like Respect is a really good opportunity. It's a bit like what you guys were saying before about the gigging, getting out there and doing it. Everybody would like to get on and play Glastonbury and the big festivals, the ones they know of, you know. But one of the ways is you've got to get out. You've got to build your fan base and do all of that stuff. And one of the ways of doing it with festivals is look at local festivals, look at community events, because there are opportunities to get in that are much easier than trying to grab one of those few slots that you might find available at bigger festivals. So I think it's a good place to start. And the fact that, you know, I'm not a professional programmer, I'm not paid to do this, we're volunteers, so we don't have any other pressure on us, you know, we're not being expected to deliver a particular target or anything, you know, so it's worth checking out. There are lots and lots of festivals all over the country, lots of them are only open to bands and acts that have got agents or record companies behind them. You know, I mean, I come at it, like most of us, we're musicians, and I come at it from both points of view. I mean, I've been trying to get my band into festivals this year and failing magnificently. And that's even having played some of those festivals with bands I've been in the past and having contacts and making those contacts, and they still ignore you, you know, because it's like, well, you've been around a few years, you haven't got the record deal, you haven't got the agent, so no, we're not going to give you a shot, you know.
Yeah, and there is always that element of, you know, who you know as well, that does sadly sort of come into it a lot of the time.
I would say target those local festivals.
Yeah,
is a
I
really
would
good
completely
starting
agree.
point.
Yeah, because you can really, you know, that's you're hitting such a lot of people in one go by playing a community festival, a smaller festival in your community. You know, and you can increase those Facebook likes, you know, those video views, sell a few CDs, you know, so definitely grab that opportunity.
Well, I'm not sure who it was that said in the last talk, but about, you know, you said it, I think, Adam, about making contacts and making friends with people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so important because it really, from my experience as a musician, all the jobs, everything I've got up in my life in music so far has generally been, I've just been in the right place at the right time, and it's just generally with someone that I've met and I've known and they've given me opportunity. So, you know, that is so important with both these discussions, I think.
Yeah, being nice, I think.
Yeah, being nice.
I think that networking thing and those opportunities and recommendations, I think we've all kind of said are hugely important. But I think that also kind of emphasises the point where you are kind of submitting things and you unfortunately haven't got that link or that contact to give you that boost, to make sure that, you know, you're submitting the right thing to the right festival, so that, you know, you're putting the time and effort into a bit of research, but, you know, it's got that additional kind of chance and additional opportunity there. And also, aside from looking kind of to your local festivals or the smaller festivals for those chances to play, you know, there are other things that larger, more established festivals are starting to do. Something that we've been running is the Lavatory Breakthrough Music Awards, and it's in its second year this year. And we received hundreds of submissions, all of which, you know, we took the time to listen to, and that's something that we did as a team, making use of, you know, that group of people who know kind of what we're looking for and what we're after. And again, you know, we asked people to think about whether what they're submitting was right for us. But that's another good opportunity to get something listened to. And for instance, the two acts who performed last year have gone on to get a lot more kind of gigs and opportunities, even last summer, just from having the recognition and the kind of accreditation that, you know, they'd gone through and done that, and even were a finalist and then went on to win. So there are other kind of ways in, certainly for kind of up and coming artists, to have that opportunity and then go on to make some of those contacts, and certainly we're then people who we would, you know, recommend on to other events and other local gigs and promoters.
Could I just ask, Hannah, when you receive submissions, what's the thing that pulls you in the most? Is it when you first look at somebody's, say, their press kit they've sent you, maybe an EPK online or something, that they've made the effort to put all that information there in one place, make it easy for you to find, and that will kind of, you know, make you listen to the music they produce more likely than if they hadn't done that?
Definitely. I think it's something that's come up kind of a couple of times today about that kind of copy and paste. You know, if it's very clear that it's just that, although we try and make the effort to listen to everything, you know, there's a huge amount, and those are the things that it's kind of easier to dismiss. And also, it was something that Sarah mentioned in the session previously about really making sure that you've not gone into kind of reams and reams, but you're really kind of short and concise. You're getting across those kind of key points. Certainly, any of those kind of additional bits of value, so, you know, who you've been supporting, and some really good kind of images and link to your music, and make it really simple for us to have a listen, and yeah, sell yourselves, and put a bit of time into getting that right before you send that off.
Someone did say earlier about live videos as well. I mean, it's really important. You know, a lot of the acts, even the bigger acts that we put on, I want to see what they're like live, even though their reputation, you know. So I'll look at for the reggae stage, for example, Rotterdam and festivals like that are really good. They put up all the live performances, so we'll look at that first.
Yeah, so if you're going to make one investment, forget the flight cases that were talked about earlier and all that shiny stuff. Go for making a really good quality, decent, very well played video. And, you know, I guess more original you can make that as well, the better. Adam, you this year are programming Victim Fest, which was in its first year last year, so it's great that it was such a success last year and it's going to go on this year as well. Can you tell us a bit about how you select artists to play Victim Fest?
Well, the thing with Victim Fest is that it's for a family audience, and that's what they asked for. So, you know, that is that whole thing again of I can't book, you know, my favourite rock metal bands because it's a pop commercial event. So I might listen to heavy music myself from time to time, but it doesn't mean that it's okay to put that on and frighten people away who might go there. Yeah. Because they might not be into that. So it's taking that into consideration, and the music also started, some of the acts, it came from that network that I sort of mix in because that is what I know. So if I know some people that will fit into that bracket to do a good job for the clientele that Bicton want coming into their, you know, or expecting. So it was considering that and then building on that to bring in, you know, good festival acts and mixing the two together and hopefully providing like an eclectic mix of music that everyone can enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think what I'm getting from all of this discussion really is that reputation really, really matters when you're putting yourself out there for festivals. If you can build a really good reputation and people are talking about you and they can only say good things about you, then you really increase your chances of picking yourself up a slot. So I guess that means, you know, like we were saying earlier on, you know, being nice to a sound engineer when you go and do a gig and, you know, making them your friend rather than your enemy. Sam's smiling down there in the front row. More from him later. So I just wanted to move on to one other issue here. It's a kind of dual issue in a way, and it refers back to what Adrian was saying earlier about how Exeter Respect have decided to pay artists this year. I think you probably recall he said that everybody's going to get, every single individual musician will get the same amount of money for playing Respect this year in Exeter, which is highly unusual. Usually headline artists get, you know, the huge lion's share, and unsigned emerging artists much further down the bill, or even not that much further down the bill, usually don't get paid. So I just wondered what the panel's opinion was about this kind of huge gulf between the headline artists who you know can be paid literally millions to play at Glastonbury, and you know the majority of the artists that don't even get sometimes expenses covered or anything. Anyone want to comment on that?
I think the main, I mean, from a financial aspect, obviously the headliners are your selling point, you know, and unfortunately it comes down to that a lot of the time. And I know, for example, we have to have bands that we don't pay. We try and pay everyone, but we can't. Yeah. And it comes down to that. We can't. We wouldn't be able to run the festival as we do. You know, if we didn't, or we just have to cut the stage, and none of the up and coming bands would be able to play. Yeah. But I mean, I think it's different as well, because with a lot of the headliner bands, they'll come in and they'll do the gig and they'll go. It's strictly work for them. Whereas a lot of the younger bands, they'll come, they'll stay for the whole weekend, they'll actually enjoy it, they'll be a part of the festival. Yeah. And, you know, I DJ'd for years at festivals without getting paid. I loved it, and I never begrudged it once. Yeah. You know, if I got a meal, it was great. But often the free ticket for the weekend is the actual and I'd be there for the weekend, and that's how I made my links. You know, I'd see all the bands, and you know, I'd find other festivals and etc.
think it is always so difficult to make that call, and it's such an emotive topic. I think kind of amongst musicians trying to get those slots. But I think it is about doing exactly that and using it also as an opportunity to make those connections. We mentioned earlier again about kind of artists working with other artists and networking with other musicians, and those are recommendations that we take on board as well. And you know, that's also an opportunity to get kind of support slots and things with those artists when they're playing elsewhere. So I think it's seeing those benefits and making the most of them to keep in mind when you're starting out and doing that as well.
I mean, it's difficult as a promoter because you're constantly overpaying the headliners and underpaying the people at the bottom of the bill. And I think what people have to understand is, and certainly in the events that I run, we only make our money off the last 10% of the ticket sales. So you can have a 90% sold out show, you're still, you know, going home with no money. So we always pay everybody. You know, it may be a nominal amount, it might be 50 quid, but I think it's really important that there is a financial transaction which kind of, you know, makes it worthwhile, and you look after, you water and feed people. But I think, you know, there's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the festival industry can work when you're working the commercial side of it, you know. And it's, you know, it's easy to blame the festivals for underpaying you, but there does come a point where there's a tipping point and you're going to be asking for more than you're actually worth, you know. And I think for me personally, probably all these people here, it's very satisfying to support a local band or a small band and see them get big. Someone mentioned the Computers earlier. You know, they're a great local band, which I sort of felt I got on pretty early, and I've put them on 4 or 5 times at my events, you know, and they're nearly getting there. And that's really great to see. We probably paid them 50 quid the first time, probably paid them $1,000 last year, which is kind of what they're worth. You know, once they break, they're going to be asking me for 10 grand.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely,
so you know, that is kind of the life cycle of being a musician. You know, you do struggle for 90% of your career, and then you're going to cream it. You know.
Do we think it's got out of hand though, the amount that the headline artists at maybe the bigger festivals get paid? Because it seems that, you know, agents can. There's always this bidding war, isn't there, every year between the major festivals of who's going to get which headline act, and it seems that the pool's kind of getting smaller in a way of the artists that you can choose from, and therefore the prices that they're demanding get pushed up even further.
I think dance music especially has got that, the headline DJs. You know, we especially with a lot of bigger events worldwide, you know, with bigger budgets.
Yeah.
I mean, we made a decision this year to kind of go for not the bigger DJs, but just one step below. And it worked much better for us, you know, and plus you haven't seen those guys a million times all over the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, definitely.
I think it can work better because, you know, a festival like Boomtown, people go for the experience, don't they? The experience of being there, and the production costs, I'm sure, are massive and take up the lion's share of the budget. But that's what they're going for, to have that experience. And in some ways, you know, I've spoken to a lot of people who've been to festivals and said that actually they haven't gone there for the headline artists, they've gone there for the experience. And so I wonder, you know, if
unfortunately, I think you still have to have those headliners. I mean, Shambhala for years didn't announce their lineup at all, you know, but even they've had to over the past few years, and they've got a great lineup, they always have done, but
the principal reason that you buy a ticket for major festivals is whoever's headlining. You know, you might spend 180 quid on a Glastonbury ticket and go nowhere near the Pyramid stage, but the reason you're buying the ticket is because the Rolling Stones or whoever is headline. You know what I mean? We all sell lifestyle festivals, but you've got to sell them before you get to the lifestyle bit, you know, and that's what's going to sell your tickets. I absolutely agree. On the day, you know, you work well to make your bill work really well, and every band is great, and it's a great experience, you know, but you've got to sell the tickets to be able to finance the whole thing. So, you know, it is a difficult equilibrium to
and people won't go to, people will choose not to go to a festival if they don't like the main headliner. I saw people who wouldn't go to Glastonbury because Jay-Z was playing a couple of years ago. It was great. I managed to get a ticket. I think it's the only time I bought one, but yeah.
So before we move on to questions, John, who's headlining Eden Sessions this year? Which headline artists have you got?
We've got Ellie Goulding, 2 shows by Elbow, the Pixies, Dizzy Rascal and Public Enemy, and I've got 2 big ones about to announce. Can't announce yet. No.
Excellent. And Matt, who have you got at Lemon Fest headlining this year?
We've got Gentlemen's Dub Club headlining this year, and we're really, really excited about it. And I think going on to the whole headliner thing, I think we've sort of spread the fun across our lineup a bit more than we've ever done before this year. We've been in the trap of big headliners before, and it's not really worked out for us. So we've got a really good lineup. We've got the correspondence, Will and the People as well. So a really, really good mix this year.
Excellent. Yeah, really good lineup.
Well, we've got 3 main stages. We don't have a main stage, so
Yeah.
we've got 3 main stages. So on the reggae stage, we've got the Wailers, we've got Jimmy Cliff, and we've got another headliner I can't say yet. Hopefully later today.
We'll have you later on then.
On the town centre, we've got Babylon Circus, we've got Caravan Pad. No, we haven't. We've got Cat Empire. Sorry.
Cat Empire, I know somebody.
We've
who'll
got Cat
be pleased about
Empire, and again, we've got a couple more that I can't say yet. And then we've got a new folk stage this year as well. So we've got Bellowhead, Africa Sound System, and Tanari Wen. So.
Excellent. In fact, Bellowhead's agent's in here somewhere, who was on a previous panel. And obviously, Respect don't have headliners this year.
Everybody's a headliner.
So everybody's a
That's
headliner.
how we're viewing it.
Ellie, do you have a headliner at Tiverton Balloon Festival?
Yeah, we do. We've got Mad Dog McCree on the Friday. We've got Cut Capers and Zuriora, and Land of the Giants are headlining Sunday.
Nice, really nice lineup, yeah. And Llama Tree?
Yeah, so over 5 days we've got Tom Jones on the Wednesday night, Squeeze for Thursday headliners, Frank Turner on Friday, Staff Bender Balili Saturday night, and Sunday night Tom O'Dell. So quite a mixed for us this year.
And I believe I meant to say Matt, Ben Howard and Jack Johnson are headlining at Somerset.
Yes.
Yeah. And Bits and Fest.
Bits and Fest this year is going to a 2-day event. So on the Friday, we have Yes Sir Boss headlining, Mad Dog on Saturday, but it's still a very small event, so it's
Yeah.
it's quite a local feel. But those two acts seem to be very good festival.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing great things on the festival scene, so locally, so it works well for us.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to hand over to questions now. Does anybody have any questions for the panel? Have we got a roving mic? Joey? Yeah.
This one's for Captain Barrett in particular, because I know that there's a lot of electronic music at Boomtown. I was just going to say, how, if at all, does it getting a gig at a festival as a DJ differ from getting a gig at a festival as a band?
DJ, I mean, we don't even have DJ submissions for Boomtown. You know, there'll be a few that will sneak through on the band submissions. It's tricky, depending on the festival. I mean, we've got a lot of micro venues at Boomtown. We've got a lot of the smaller venues, so kind of probably befriending them or hitting those up. I mean, I get a lot of DJ submissions just from, mates to mates and whatever. And a lot of the time we just can't. We've got a limited amount of DJ spaces. I mean, I got loads of mates that are DJs who all want to play. Some of them, we put between the bands and the main stages, just half-hour slots, but, it gets them into the festival.
So would you say that it's harder for a DJ to get a slot at a festival, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to say harder or easier sometimes, because it just is what it is. If you get a gig, you get a gig. If you don't, you don't.
But the key is networking, I guess, and getting to know the people when you're at the festival and sort of
Yeah,
befriending
completely.
them.
I mean, my first DJ gig, I think, at a festival was Bestival, the very first one, and I'd managed to blag my way in, and I wasn't booked to DJ, but I just took a bag of 7-inch records and ended up DJing there, and from there they enjoyed the set, etc. So, yeah.
Okay, any more questions for the panel? Oh, there's one in the middle. If you could pass it along, thank you.
Just quickly, while you're passing it over, there's just a quick thing off the record. If you get a set, you do, and if you don't, you don't. Don't be disheartened, kind of not getting in to play that year. When we're looking at the lineup, we're looking at kind of what we've got overall that year, and obviously we've all talked about kind of different stages that we're looking to programme, which we're looking for different things for. If we see something, hear something that we like, and unfortunately it doesn't fit that mix, it's not forgotten, and we do look for an opportunity later. So if you don't get in that time, it all is not lost. We'll keep things that we like in mind.
Great, thanks, Hannah. Okay, we've got a question from the middle.
Hello.
Hello.
What time of the year should we start contacting the festivals?
Good question.
Some people have started in November and some people start like February. So.
I think everyone's different. I mean, we start straight after the festival. I mean, I've already programmed most of 2015, so I mean, it's tricky.
I think the general rule of thumb for festivals is you start looking at headliners in the autumn and the sort of smaller stages and openers at the beginning of the year, as a rule of thumb.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much...
Don't go too early. If you go too early, you're just going to be on the slush pile anyway. So, I mean, I'm with Eden, for example, we've literally just locked in our 7 headliners and we're now looking at supports now. So I've got about, 10,000 emails to go through next week.
Anybody else want to offer anything different in response to that question, or is it pretty much the same across the board?
Pretty similar, really, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any more questions? Yeah, it's just in front of you. Thank you.
Thanks. Chris from the Swamp Gods. Just a question, in terms of kind of sort of balance between sort of the major booked headline acts that presumably you book through an agent or an agency, and the bands, the more local bands that apply to you directly. Do you see any kind of difference in either, I suppose, the proportions or the opening up to local bands? I know, Hannah, you talked about kind of having looking for, I can't remember exactly what you called it.
Breakthrough musicals.
Exactly. Do you see more of that happening? Is that a trend, or does it tend to be more locked into agencies?
I think what we're seeing more and more is agents picking up on acts earlier and just kind of locking them in, which can be a good or a bad thing. A lot of the time, if that happens, it means I can't get that band, because for whatever deals we were doing before. But I mean, we're probably about 50-50, I think, at Boomtown. But then we get a lot of bands from other countries, etc. So I'll just search them out myself, and any time that we can go direct, then generally we will.
There's a lot of favours that agents try and push on you. If you book their headliner, they want to throw a few of their little bands at you. I tend not to do that, because what you get is a favours stage, and at the end of the day, it's about the music. So for me personally, I look across the board for the opening acts with smaller stages, and quite often a direct approach is better than an agent for me.
Thank you. Any other opinions on that one?
I think we've tried to do a lot of that this year as well. We've tried to go direct as much as possible, because we've found that in previous years we have had difficulty because we haven't got massive budgets. We're entirely self-funded by just 2 of us. So where we've been burnt in the past by agents charging inflated fees and not really knowing what we're doing, you tend to get a much more honest approach directly, and you can sort of you know that you're sort of not doing the right thing, but you know that you're getting the best deal for your festival, as opposed to, we put offers in for certain acts this year through agents, and they've doubled and tripled by the time we say, yeah, we're ready to make an offer. So it's can be difficult.
Not all agents are like that.
Not all, yeah. Of course.
But more independent, not a major sort of agent, can be a good thing to deal with. I believe that another localish festival who isn't represented here today, but I think there's an agency in Somerset that's called Midnight Mango that programme a lot of their stages. So I think there is scope for smaller, more independent agencies to work to some degree hand in hand with more local festivals, because they've already filtered through a lot of the local talent anyway. Any more feedback from that question? Or? No. Okay. Any more questions from the floor? Yes, down at the front here. Thank you, Chris.
Hi there. Excuse me. I self-manage myself, funnily enough. I just find it sort of part of the fun. But does that affect you when you're booking artists? Does it affect how seriously you take them?
I'd say it does.
No, not for me. To be honest, I think a lot of the time, a lot of artists that I deal with self-manage, which can be a bit of a nightmare. But if you're organised and on it, then brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. So everybody's applications kind of get assessed fairly equally, do they? Or?
I think most of the applications we get are from members of the band. Sometimes you get a member of the band and the manager and the drummer and the, you know, and their
as long
mate.
as you're clear and present yourself really well, I think that's the best thing that you can do. That's what's going to get you noticed, and people are going to see that straight away. So for me, yeah, definitely.
The primary reason to book a band is because they sound good. You know, I mean, it's a ridiculously basic thing to say, but, you know, all the fluff that you've been on Six Music and you've got a nice video and all that, for me personally, that isn't that important. You know, what's important is when you open up that SoundCloud link and it sounds brilliant. That's the only, for me, that is the only criteria.
Yeah, you can forgive anything else.
I mean, look at this band Royal Blood from Brighton last year. You know, they put out one link, you know, one track, and the whole industry went fucking berserk over it because it was really good. They didn't have any photos, didn't have a logo. No one knew anything about it. They hadn't done any gigs, you know. And I mean, maybe that is an exception to the rule, but you know, I reiterate, it's all about the music. It doesn't matter who's managing you, who's your agent. If it's really good, it's really good. And then you probably have all that team in place by the next time you send an email, you know. But
because you mentioned that you've got sort of 10,000 emails to get through.
It's a bit of exaggeration.
Do you get, you know, do you manage to listen to sort of a large percentage of them, or is it a bit of luck in there as well?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a bit single-minded about it, and you have to be probably, you know, a bit of arrogance about it. But I've been working in the industry for 25 years, so within the first 30 seconds of a link, you kind of know if it's professionally put together. You know, I think that's fair to say. You know, and then if it is, then you listen to the end of the song, and you know, if it moves you, for me, it hits you in the heart. It hits you in the heart, and then you go up onto the next level, and you know, you. So yeah, I listen to everything, but some stuff you only need to listen to, like, you know, 30 seconds. You know, it's kind of not right for you.
I probably
some death metal or something that's, you know, you're trying to support Ellie Goulding. It's not quite right. You know,
I probably listened to about 10 seconds of pretty much most, you know, 90% of the tunes that we get that I have. I've only listened to 10% of the tunes of in my iTunes, I think. But
to make your opening
make the intro really
strong.
yeah,
don't bore us, skip the chorus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's refreshing because you know, so many venue owners I've dealt with look at things like Facebook likes and YouTube views, and for them that's, you know, their main focus, and it's really important for them. But it's refreshing to hear another point of view. That, you know, it really does just come down to the song at the end of the day, the music at the end of the day, and that's what you go straight through to. And if it moves you, you'll book it, basically, or you'll consider it.
I was talking to a band based in Shoreditch the other day, and they were saying the new trend is to have the least amount of likes as possible.
Really?
8 likes, then you're really,
so all
you're
of
really
you
under
with
the radar.
2 or 3 likes. This is your year. Adam, you were going to offer an alternative view there.
I was going to say, with regards to, you know, should you have management or not? I mean, I've been through a bad experience with management, and I'd prefer not to have management. And I always like to try and make contact with the people that I'm playing for, because I feel like there's some sort of control there, and you know that you're getting all the information, but I don't feel like sometimes I can talk about myself in the right way. So that's why I would say, if you don't feel, if you're the same as me in that case, then management is a good idea, or someone just to, you know, help you get your stuff together, because sometimes it can come across, the perception of that, you know, if you've got a representative, can help. But then, I mean, from my point of view, it's refreshing to hear these guys say that they totally look at the music, and I'm very pleased to hear that.
It's like you say, if you've got something professional to put forward,
yeah,
you know, then that's going to help. I mean, do you have any tips, John, for putting it quite professionally? Because every festival I freak out and do a totally different email.
Well, personally, I like to think people do things slightly different, you know, in all walks of life, really. So that approach, for me, if I see something slightly different, and it could just be a very well-written paragraph about why you're making music and who your influences are, for example, rather than, you know, I went around and supported X or Y band, you know, it's just piquing someone's interest, because you are looking at a lot of this stuff every day, you know, and something comes through and you go, oh, hang on, that looks good, you know. So I think passion is a big thing in all of this, and commitment, because, we're all passionate and committed about what we do, and the musicians need to be the same. And, I manage bands too, and I think it's really important, you take every opportunity, because it's a small window you've got, and you can't be lazy. The bands that make it are the ones that work really bloody hard, and you get offered a gig in Glasgow for 50 quid and you drive up the motorway and you do it, and there's 5 people there. And next time you go back, there's 10, and, it's cliched stuff, but it's true.
Okay, thank you all for that. I'm sure you'll agree it's been a very interesting discussion, but we do have to bring this one to a close now and take a break for lunch. So I'd like you all to join me in thanking our panel today for festivals. Thank you very much. Just a reminder that for those who have pre-ordered lunch, that will be served out in the cafe bar now, and we'll reconvene in here at 2:15 for a debate about whether musicians should ever pay for free. See you then.